Hello and welcome to episode 18 of the Nourish and Strengthen podcast. I have a really great topic for you today, and you might feel like it calls you out just a little bit. If you do feel that way, it also means you're probably going to have some major light bulb moments here today. So, this podcast, not to be dramatic, but it just might change your life. I don't know. You can tell me after you listen, okay, now I feel nervous because now I feel like I set the bar really high. But really, we have a really great topic that I'm going to tell you about in just a minute. So let's talk about a little personal update. I know I never told you guys about kind of just some recent personal fitness goals that I've had. So let's kind of dive into that for a minute. The beginning of July, I found myself kind of hovering at the top of my maintenance. So if you follow my journey, you know that I gained a bunch of weight in 2018 to 19 after competing, right? I was able to lose that weight into 2020 and 21. And I've really just maintained my weight, my body composition for the last couple of years. But what maintenance comes with, and we're going to do a whole episode on maintenance because maintenance is not truly maintenance day in and day out. Maintenance is really a period of time where you're fluctuating from, a high to a low end of whatever range you feel comfortable in. So with that said, in the beginning of July, I felt like I was just kind of hovering at the top of my maintenance and hitting above where I really like to be. And so I did a little bit of a mini cut. Started early July, went for about 10 weeks. So what the purpose of it was just to get from the top of my maintenance zone, which is like, mid 140s, like 144, 145, down to the bottom of my maintenance zone, which is about 140 or so, and hang out around there. So I went for about 10 weeks in a calorie deficit. I tracked calories and protein. My calories were in the 1500s-ish. Protein was about 115 to 120. I lifted weights really hard for 4 days a week, and I did cardio. I didn't really intend to do any cardio, but I have this little obsession lately with rollerblading. I just really, really love it, you guys. It makes me so happy. I don't know. That's a funny story too. We were in San Diego in October, and if you've been to San Diego and you've stayed by the what's it called, like the boardwalky area on Mission Beach and Pacific Beach, there are people out there rollerblading, roller skating, biking with their music. And so I went out there and we brought some rollerblades. This is a tangent. Brought some rollerblades that actually were mine and my brother's when we were teenagers. And so my daughter, Aubrey, wore mine that were like a size 8 or 9, and I wore my brother's that were a size 11. And we just had the best time. Granted, it was totally flat there, right? And there was just this flat sidewalk, perfect concrete, nice and smooth. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. I absolutely love this. And so we came home. I got some rollerblades for my birthday, some very cute rollerblades, by the way. They're white and they have some purple and some teal. Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with them. But I was a little nervous because I didn't know if we'd have a proper rollerblading place here in Utah. So we're lucky because we live really close to a river, and there's a river trail that goes right along the river, and it is very flat for miles and miles. And so I rollerbladed in November one time, and I was like, okay, I love this. And then I didn't rollerblade again all winter into the spring. But rollerblading, I've been doing it twice a week for about 45 minutes to an hour all summer. Not really because I'm trying to get in cardio necessarily, but I just love it. You guys, I blast my Taylor Swift. I sing out loud. I really do. I sing out loud. So if you pass me on the river trail, you're gonna get a little bit of a laugh. But hopefully when you laugh, you're just like, man, that girl's having fun. Hopefully that's what you think, and you're not like, oh my gosh, she's such an idiot. We should make herself look so stupid. But it's okay. I don't really care. Anyways, that's been my cardio in this little mini cut. It has been 2 rollerblading sessions of 45 minutes to an hour. It's a solid moderate to low intensity cardio session. My heart rate ranges from like 110 up to maybe it gets up to like 150 sometimes, guys. If it's really windy, or if I'm just like really rocking out, and dancing at the same time, it gets pretty high. So anyway, it's a good solid cardio session. So that's kind of the structure of the mini cut that I did. I was off track for about 3 weeks. We did a trip to Florida. And then when Caleb came home, I was off track. I kind of spent some time at maintenance there. But during that time, I was able to drop about 4 to 5 pounds. So I'm currently like 139, 140. Starting this week, I'm bumping calories back up to maintenance. I'm doing it over the course of a couple weeks. I'll probably do 2, maybe 3 jumps back up to maintenance and then call it good. So it's been great. My insulin was getting a little bit high. And one of the best ways to bring insulin down is actually to go into a calorie deficit for a little bit. So got labs done during my deficit, and my insulin and my blood sugar levels were perfect. My cortisol was a bit high though. And so that was one reason why I moved out of the deficit sooner than later, to try and work on bringing that level down. So yeah, that is kind of what that all looked like there. Was about 7 to 8 weeks of actually being in a deficit, lost 4 to 5 pounds. I'm super happy with it. And yeah, now just kind of living at maintenance, which is really where you should spend most of your life, right? Tomorrow, I'm heading actually to Nashville for a business conference. Should be tons of fun, lots of good learning, connecting with friends, that kind of thing. So, our topic for today actually talks about kind of what I was just talking about with, mini cuts and dieting and that kind of thing. So, my topic is this. I want you to ask yourself this question. Are you actually dieting, or are you just in a dieting mindset? Okay, let me start with defining a couple of these terms here. So I'm using the word diet to refer to simply being in a calorie deficit with the goal of losing fat. Okay, don't freak out about the word diet. I'm not saying, are you doing a fad diet? Are you doing any of these crazy cabbage soup diets or HCG or anything like super crazy like that? When I say, are you actually dieting? I just mean, are you actually in a calorie deficit? Okay, so now that we got that understood, what do I mean by the term dieting mindset? What does that mean? So this is a term that I'm using that refers to when you feel like you're dieting. Okay, so maybe it feels hard. Maybe whatever you're doing feels like you're working so dang hard. Maybe it feels like you're getting a little bit burned out. Whatever that looks like for you, it just feels like you're in a calorie deficit. Okay, so here's the truth. Here's the truth that I'm going to break to you. A lot of people are in a dieting mindset, but are not actually dieting. Let me repeat that, okay? Could you possibly, I want you to think about this for you, could you possibly be in a dieting mindset, feeling like you're working so hard, feeling like you're dieting, but you're not really in a calorie deficit? Okay. Now, your first thought might be like, oh, heck no, that's not me. I'm definitely dieting. I hired a coach. I'm paying for help. I'm eating chicken and broccoli and fruit all the time. I'm weighing and measuring my food. I am totally dieting, but I'm not seeing any results. Okay. That might be your first thought. All right. So, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to walk you through 3 situations where you might actually not be dieting, but you're in a dieting mindset. Okay. And we're going to talk through why this isn't ideal. And we're also going to talk through what to do if you find yourself in one of these situations. Okay. So the first one is the most common. Okay, this one is the one I see all the time. And this is when you're falling off track often enough that you're not really consistently in a deficit, but you feel like you're quote unquote on a diet. Okay, so let's talk about what's happening here. So what happens here is your mind thinks you're on a diet. You're doing all the things. Like I said, maybe you have hired a coach. Maybe you have, you're tracking your macros 90% of the time, right? You tell yourself you're working so hard. You feel like you're struggling, but the truth is you're not really being consistent enough 7 days of the week, day in, day out, all day. You're not really being consistent enough to actually see results. So what's happening is weeks and weeks go on, you fall off track here and there, you see no progress, but then you find yourself saying at the end, I've been dieting for 8 weeks and I haven't lost anything. Or maybe you say to yourself, I've tried everything and nothing is working for me. Does that sound familiar? Chances are you were really not actually dieting. So what might be happening? What might be happening is maybe Friday comes around and you have an untracked meal that maybe is included on your program, right? But your untracked meal might be a burger, fries, a milkshake, and then you get home and you snack on some other things because you just had your untracked meal. So it all kind of lumps together, right? And then maybe Saturday comes and you wake up and you're kind of off track throughout the day Saturday, but the other 5 days of the week you're pretty much right on track, right? Maybe that's off track enough that you're not really in a deficit. Or maybe it looks like, you're on track all day long, but the evening comes around and you had a long day, you're really tired, maybe the kids are super ornery, you get them in bed, and you just start nibbling in some food, okay? Whatever that looks like, you're not being consistent enough all throughout the day, 7 days of the week, but you feel like you're working so hard. So you're in this dieting mindset, but you're really not in a calorie deficit consistently. Now, a little bit of a disclaimer here. I am not coming out and saying you have to be 100% on track all the time. Okay. The situation just comes up when you're off track just a bit too much to see results. Okay. So here's another scenario. Maybe you're overeating on quote unquote clean, healthy foods. Okay. You might feel like you're dieting because you're eating 100% clean. You're eating fruit and nuts and meat and healthy fats. And all of these healthy food options, maybe they're totally unprocessed. Maybe you are cooking in coconut oil and you're, doing all the things that you should be doing. You're not eating whatever it is you think you shouldn't be eating. You could easily be eating too many calories and not be in a calorie deficit, but actually feel like you're dieting because you're not really eating foods you enjoy, right? Maybe you're eating chicken and broccoli and olive oil because you feel like you're supposed to. And maybe if you want a treat, you have some dark chocolate because that's like a healthy thing to have. If you need a treat, have some dark chocolate, but maybe you hate dark chocolate and you're like, I don't even really want this. And so you find yourself just really eating too much of the healthy stuff. So you're not really dieting, meaning you're not really in a calorie deficit. So you're not seeing results. But mentally, you feel like you're working so hard, right? Last scenario is maybe you're taking so many BLTs that you're really, without even noticing, eating your way out of a deficit. So what are BLTs? I talked about these last week in our macro tracking, our 10 top macro tracking mistakes episode. But BLTs stands for bites, licks, tastes. These are mindless nibbles that you're having of things throughout the day, just mindless munching that you don't even really notice. You guys, sometimes you literally don't notice them. You have to really pay attention to them and really just be aware that you're having them. And so sometimes you can, maybe put some Post-it notes around your fridge, in your pantry, whatever that looks like for you to remind yourself to just be aware. Okay. I'm not saying you can't ever do this. I'm just saying being aware will help you know if it's a problem for you. And you can really have enough BLTs that you'll kind of eat your way out of that calorie deficit. So again, dieting mindset, you feel like, no, I am tracking my macros. I am on a meal plan, whatever it looks like for you. I'm doing this program. I have this coach. I'm paying for whatever it is, accountability, but you're not being consistent enough with your tracking. You're having those mindless nibbles that are making it so you're not in the deficit that you think you're in and that your coach thinks you're in as well. Right? So those are kind of 3 common scenarios. So let's talk about what you need to do. Okay. First of all, a little bit of not a tangent, but keep in mind that a calorie deficit should not be something that you do forever. Okay. Most of your life should be spent at maintenance. You should spend most of your life at maintenance and then dip into a calorie deficit for, 8 to 12 weeks, maybe once a year, here and there, right? The problem is when people go into a calorie deficit and they're not consistent, so they end up staying there for a long period of time. Now, you might be saying, well, what's the problem with that? Because you just said they're not being consistent, so they're not really in a calorie deficit. Yes, that's true. The problem with that is our mindset, our relationship with food, what we expect should be happening that is not happening, which leaves us feeling frustrated and mad, right? So what do? We got to be consistent, you guys. You got to stick to your calories. You got to plan ahead. So what I want you to do is I want you to ask yourself, if you're in this situation, where are you struggling the most? Is it the evening times? Is it the weekends? Is it with tracking all of your food? And really make a plan for those situations. So if it's the evenings, a really good idea is to plan in maybe a treat or a dessert or an end of day something that you love and that you look forward to. Plan it in, track it in advance, Enjoy that treat, meal, whatever that is, and then brush your teeth afterwards. Okay, brushing your teeth afterwards can kind of act as like that final, okay, no more eating after this, but you had the thing that you love that you've been looking forward to all day, right? If you struggle on the weekends, maybe one option is to plan in some different foods that maybe you don't have time to prepare during the week, but you look forward to on the weekend that feel like something different and something fun, but it's still sticking to your calories and your macros. Okay, just some ideas here. The idea or the main thing to take away is that you want to ask yourself when you're struggling the most and really think about that and make a plan to stay consistent. Okay, because calorie deficits, like I said, should not last forever. They need to be as short as possible. So you got to be consistent. You got to get in, see the results you want to see, and get out so that you do not always feel like you're on a diet always forever and ever. Okay, so the final question I have for you, and I really want you to think about this, is are you actually dieting or are you just in a dieting mindset? Okay, hopefully this gave you some aha moments and it rang true to you, or hopefully it didn't. Hopefully you're like, no, I'm good. I'm seeing results for what I'm doing, whatever my goals are. But I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, share it with someone. Share it with someone who needs to hear the same kind of thing. And let me know. Let me know if you enjoyed it. Go ahead and shoot me a message, Trainer Lindsay on all social media. I would love to hear from you. And until next week, I'll talk to you guys soon.